And not just from the standpoint of, I know where the start button is, or, that Apple doohickey in the top left corner allows me to get to, system preferences or whatever. You need to know a little bit more about those operating systems as a prerequisite. But then you can build your own playpen inside of these virtualization platforms. And then it goes down from there, right? And these are some of the skills that you need to have that's definitely a part of within that framework document. One of them is just host security. Do you know how to secure a host system? What is a host system? People, the concept of host is like from way back in the 60s and 70s, or they used to call computers hosts, right? Because it was this giant room-sized thing that people paid to gain access to on a timeshare basis, this giant mainframe type of thing, right? And so it was a host because it hosted people at several at a time perhaps to get in there and get on the computer, like the nerds of the old days. But host security, so that's where the name came from. But hosts are everywhere. Computers are, it's not just desktop computers or servers or laptops. It's what? Name some. Yeah.
Your iPhone.
Yeah. It's got an IP address. It's got an operating system. It's got tons of applications.
And had open root access to the point.
Yeah. Wireless access points, probably all over this campus and all over the city. Operating system, it's the perimeter. It extends the perimeter, the physical perimeter of every organization, right? So that's a host system. Raise your hand if you have a wireless router in your apartment or in your house. Everybody, right? Of course, duh. Why? I know some of you, you don't take the New York Times, the paper form, when you go to that special place every morning, do you? You take maybe another system. And it would be pretty inconvenient if you had to, if you didn't have wireless, let's just say, to go to that particular place. What's this here? Plug in or, hey, Doug, can you? I think there's a plug on the, yeah, it's actually vertical. So if you go straight up, there you go. There's a plug. Yeah. Boing. Very good. So, so with that, you have to think about all the different hosts that are connected to the internet in some way, right? My son's PlayStation, or an Xbox, or you name it, everything, right? Refrigerators, cars, the megabus. I'm sitting in Lincoln Tunnel coming into town today, and right next to me is the megabus. And right on the megabus it says free Wi-Fi, woohoo! So you're surfing the web when you're going 55, on the highway, on the megabus. It's ubiquitous and everywhere. Is it even on the subway yet?
Yes. Subway station.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, in some cities, it is in the subway system. Okay, but all these type of things. So host security, some of those tools, OSEC is open source security. It's a tool that you can deploy centrally on networks, and you can do a lot of host-based security on Windows systems, Linux systems, routers, all kinds of things, and you can do it from one location. You don't need to go and touch every system all at the same time, and it reports back to a central console, and it's like totally cool and free. And it works really well. And so that might be something to get to understand about host security. Has anybody ever heard of the Secunia? So Secunia is a company. Am I even saying that right? Because I can't read it. It provides a number of free tools. One of them is particularly good at doing a couple of things. This one tool, so right now, you might have your Windows box or your Mac set to do automated updates, where it goes out and when Microsoft releases a patch, it magically just gets it, and you might have said it, you just don't bother and just do it at 3 in the morning or whatever, and it just takes care of itself. However, there's all these other applications that don't do that, like Java, which is fairly ubiquitous, and is Swiss cheese. It provides access to your network, to your systems, and it's in the last couple of years, Oracle has fought to try to keep the thing available, but it's just one huge vulnerability after another, and so that's Java. Adobe Reader and the Flash Player, Swiss cheese. and many, many, many other apps that, that this security thing just says, just tell me what all the crazy applications are on this computer and just go get the patches and deal with that for me because I don't want to have to worry about it, right? So that's good because it tells you, it kind of tries to keep your system current and up to date with the latest and greatest. However, as we'll see in the target breach example, how are we doing on time here? Good. As we'll see in a minute, there certainly are what's called a 0-day. A 0-day attack or an exploit just simply means that there are no patches available. You have no means of securing this. And that happens particularly in not well-resourced companies. So open source software or freeware, where organizations aren't, the market isn't driving them to get a fix out there as quick as possible. So anybody in here have a Mac or an iPhone or an iPad? Yeah, okay. I thought you'd all be like, hey, yeah, right? Because Macs are cool. Sorry. Where was I going with that? Oh, yeah, so just this last week, right, there's a deep SSL bug within all forms of the operating system, including the iOS, right? And Apple saw it, knew about it, but it took them a little while. Not too long, but it took them a little while. So there was the 0-day on your iPhone, on your Mac, right? Where technically someone could get in, break in, and claim that system and do bad stuff to it. And so that's kind of the concept of 0-day. Vulnerability scanning and testing. That's another thing that you should be pretty good at. If you want to be this cyber warrior type of person. That means I need to be proactive. I can't just wait and let some bad thing happen to my network and then find out about it by the newspaper or maybe my users. I'm the IT bubba. And the IT department should know about bad stuff before the users do, and certainly before the consumers or the customers do. It doesn't always happen, not even close, but you should make an attempt. So vulnerability scanning and assessment is a proactive program or method for being able to actively look for vulnerabilities or weak default settings within your network and your systems of your network and get that reported back so that you can build what's called a mitigation plan, whereby you either accept the risk, so this is like risk management. You can accept the risk. Maybe you're like, hey, I'm Paco's Hubcaps and Donuts, and I got a website, and I don't really care if my website gets hacked. Whatever. I'm not going to go to some huge length to patch this thing because it's not core and essential to my business, right? But if you are Amazon.com or some other organization where that is your front door to your company, then it's crucial that you do these type of things, that you put forth the necessary resources to actively test and scan for vulnerabilities in your network. There's a lot of great open source tools for that. Microsoft actually gives away one that's really great. It works on your Windows box and all in your Windows networks. It's called Microsoft Baseline Security Analyzer. You can download it for free from Microsoft. It's a very powerful tool. It tells you what patches are missing across all of your networks if you use it right. Gives you these beautiful, pretty HTML and PDF-based reports. And it's all automated and really, really easy to use. And it's free. And then there's Open Vulnerability Assessment System. And that is extremely powerful Linux-based. There's actually Windows clients for it, where you can do even greater vulnerability testing, and it's completely free. And there's a whole open source community that's constantly providing new plugins for that system so that you're being able to see the latest in all the vulnerabilities that are announced and found. Then you can get into your own network mapping with Nmap, or if you want to be like that dude, with the black thing here, you might want to download Kali Linux. So Kali Linux is a penetration testing free distribution, Linux distribution that comes on a live CD. So you just plop it in your computer and it just boots up. And it's used by everyone in the pen test community. It's not exclusively used. It's not the only tool, but it's one of the tools that's absolutely in every pen tester and therefore every hacker's use case. Yeah. Sir. Please keep them coming.
Using hacking tools, Kali Linux and the like. Cautionary note to all: make sure you have a hunting license. If you do not have a hunting license, I'm not joking. This has been an episode and people have gone to jail. If you do not have a hunting license and you show up on your corporate network doing this, somebody with a hunting license may call law enforcement.
Yeah. Right. That's why the virtualization exactly. That's why the virtualization platforms are key. I tell my students all the time.
And don't make the Morris mistake. Pull the plug out of the wall before playing.
Yeah. Or your virtualization platform has both of them, all of them have a setting that's called host-only networks, which means that your network is private and it's confined to your local Mac or your Windows box or whatever, and the virtual network that is provided by that software. So you can do anything you want inside of this closed loop virtual network and practice and play and attack other Windows systems that you build or whatever, and that's fine, but it's within that contained space. Yes, sir?
Don't trust the settings.
Yeah.
Remove the Wi-Fi, disable the Wi-Fi card, pull the bloody Ethernet cord out of the wall.
It's definitely best to do that. Yeah.
And the knock on the door is the Secret Service.
True.
Problem on your hands.
Yeah. So is anybody here old enough to have said that I've seen the movie War Games? If you haven't seen it, it came out like 1981 or something, and it's a classic. You need to see it. But it was decades ahead of its time. Anyway, but you can see that's clearly the case. Quickly, you could spin something out of control unintentionally. And so you want to be able to ensure that that does not happen. In fact, one of my former teaching assistants, great guy, I told him about a tool, this is 10 years ago, that's still around. It's called Cain and Abel. It's a nasty tool that a guy in Italy produces. It allows you to basically sniff the networks, collect hashes of people's passwords, credentials, crack those passwords with brute force or rainbow tables, cryptanalysis, password cracking capability, blah, blah. There's a whole myriad of things. Well, he actually started using that on CMU's real network and started pointing it and got busted and got in a lot of trouble because he didn't do that. So don't do that. The last thing, network security monitoring. This is kind of like the bread and butter. Like you can't show up in an interview. If you want to be a security dude and you want to go say, oh man, Citigroup is hiring. Woo, look at those numbers, Jabba the Hutt. I want to do that. Yeah, you need to have worked with Wireshark and TCP dump. You need to understand packets. You need to understand how to build capture filters and display filters and how to analyze IP packets. A lot of you are probably yawning and saying, oh God, that sounds fun. But it's just core. You got to know that. They're going to ask you questions about that type of stuff. You can use other tools. Some of them are right there. I would recommend highly, everyone here, if you're going to be a cybersecurity person, you should be very proficient with Snort. Snort is an open source, widely used intrusion detection system, network-based intrusion detection system. There's a company behind it. It's one of the largest security success stories for open source products ever. It's used by the Department of Defense and other organizations. It's everywhere you want to be. You should get comfortable with Snort and how to build new rules or customize rules and how to set it up in the right places in your network. Get good at Snort if you want to do cybersecurity. You should, because you kind of need to know how to do that. And then if you want to just make it really easy on yourself and you want to do network security monitoring with no hassle at all, download Security Onion. Security Onion is another free tool. It's a Linux distribution. And what's beautiful about it is it has all these open source network security monitoring tools, Snort and countless others, and they all just work. You just turn the thing on and it just works. You don't have to do anything. It just works. You can configure it, of course, but everything just works right out the box. And it's free, and it's updated all the time, and it's very, very good. So check out Security Onion. Also, NTOP or MRTG, these are kind of network analysis, traffic analysis tools. Let you know, like, if you're looking at MRTG, it's still written by a guy named Tobias Audiker. He's a Swiss dude. So I always annoy my students to say multi-router traffic grapher. But he is It's a tool that's been used by, it's used by everybody in the world practically, or some derivative of it. It's been put into all kinds of perimeter security products, blah, blah, blah. But all it does is simply shows you your bandwidth utilization, right? So it says over time, every hour, you can configure it to do it every 5 minutes, hour, and there's these graphs, these pretty little green and blue graphs. They go all the way from day to week to month to year to whatever. And what it does is it baselines your network. And then all of a sudden, you're thinking, we're at a bank, one of our banks in Indonesia, and typical, look at these graphs, at 3 in the morning, you know, we're at like south of 500 kilobits per second of inbound traffic or of outbound traffic or something like that, probably even lower, right? But whoa, last night, what's that spike? What's that blue spike? That's not normal. Be aware of that. That might be somebody exfiltrating data out of your network, and you should be aware of that. That's one of the easy ways to detect that. And then you can dig in further using some of these tools. NTOP is another one that summarizes traffic. So these are just things that you need to be able to have some skills going into an interview. If you're gonna work in security, you really need to have these things pretty well down, or at least some experience with them. And then, so after you learn kind of the security tools, then they're going to want you to know how to analyze data, because it's more than just, again, just NCASE is telling me that this file was deleted on this time. But then they're going to want you to be able to have some analysis skills to be able to potentially look at that source data and determine using other tools, or maybe if you're a programmer, you can write your own tool to provide more information than the tool actually provides, the commercial tool actually provides. So with incident response and forensics, a big part of our program, and since it's named Cyber Forensics and Incident Response, our track at CMU is focused on data. It's focused on using tools and being comfortable with how to dig into systems that have been compromised, pull out the data, or at least build a timeline of an event and find out what happened. And then these are just some more free tools. Deft Linux and Kane, both are bootable live CDs for conducting computer forensic investigations, updated all the time with the latest and greatest versions of open source tools like the one on the left, Autopsy and SleuthKit. So NCASE is super expensive. NCASE are what big companies use, and FTK, the forensic toolkit from Access Data, those are kind of the two biggies, and they cost tons and tons of money to be able to do forensic examinations on systems and networks. But the SleuthKit and its GUI front end called Autopsy, that does, in some cases, a better job than either of those tools in some of the more esoteric situations that you might find yourself in. And again, dirt free, or dirt cheap, free. Brian Carrier, he's a nice guy. He wrote a book called File System Forensics, and we use that as one of our textbooks in our Cypher program. And it's old, but the file systems don't change that often. And so it's totally relevant. And his tools that he writes makes it really easy to learn about that stuff. And lastly, malware analysis. This is where usually having some programming experience helps or is required in some cases to do it well. Because you can do malware analysis, what's called runtime malware analysis. That means you got this thing on your computer and your antivirus program quarantined it, and it's stuffed in this folder, and you're like, what is that? What is that? That's one example of how you might find it, but there's plenty of other cases of how you might find it. Then you want to be able to kind of analyze that malware, because companies are so globally interconnected now that malware can morph and change as it traverses a botnet or a command and control network, as it goes to other places within your corporate enterprise network, right? And so you need to be able to understand this stuff. And there's still, so you can take that file, and there's many websites out there where you can just upload that file, and it'll spit back a report. And in fact, when we get to the target breach, when we ever get there, you're going to see that that's what was done. They took this nasty piece of malware that was used to siphon off credit card data from Target's point of sale systems, and they uploaded that actual malware to a free site. And when it spit back the report instantaneously, it told you right in there that that system was specifically programmed to put that credit card data, to drop it into a file server, onto a share, a Windows share, within Target's corporate network, and then use that point as a dropper to then push it out to other sites in the US and eventually get over to Russia with all that credit card data. So clearly you want to be able to have some way of knowing what's going on with that malware itself. And that's probably I would say that's kind of the order of how you should proceed if you want to be a cybersecurity workforce ninja. You know, start with the knowledge and the basics, then build skills with open source tools, be safe about it, and then get into network security monitoring, like I said in the last slide, and all the way into the deeper dive analysis. And the malware analysis, where typically it's kind of like you have security, the security workforce, and then it goes like this, malware analysis. And these are traditionally the really, really egg-heady type of people, because it takes some advanced programming skills to do it well. But have we actually finally got to that point? Maybe? This is the hardest thing to do for students. How do you gain real-world experience? Cool. You've used Snort. Woohoo! That's awesome. You've read some security blogs. Way to go. But you don't know anything about a real investigation. You don't know anything about a real case. You don't know how to put all this together very well. I'm not saying you. I'm saying the royal you, we, right? But that particular situation is challenging for colleges and universities to deal with. And so I'm going to try. I have about 15 minutes. Maybe I'll hold off until the end. I'm going to get through the Target thing first. And then maybe we'll give you guys a look at one of the systems that we've developed at CERT, we call Step Forward Simulation Training and Exercise Platform. This is what we use for the large cyber exercises for US Cyber Command and many other DoD organizations, the system. But it's also, we have a public version that we let organizations use that magically deploys large networks and scenarios with automated attacks where you have to, and there's evaluation, you have to do quizzes and all kinds of stuff in there to be able to learn how this happens, how to investigate, how to go through an incident response process in real time against live attackers. So that's a system that we use for that. And in the class I'm teaching this semester, we run a team-based cyber exercise 14 of the 16 weeks. My students, and I have 47 students in the class this semester. And I'll probably have more than that in the fall. Typically the fall is heavier. But every single week, they are learning the skills. This is a master's degree program. So they have some prerequisite knowledge and skills as expected. And then they are they are working as a team through these realistic situations, these incidents and these forensic analysis and doing investigation, cyber investigation. And we'll talk about there. But if you if you don't have that system or access to something like that, then what can you do? How can you build real world experience? Well, you just fake it. You use case studies. And we finally got there. Woo! I hope the build-up isn't like totally lame. Like now it's gonna be like, oh, that dude was really boring. But this is in the news today, right? In the Wall Street Journal today, in the USA Today, and every other thing, this is a big deal because it's starting to, the same exact methodology that was used, that we're seeing just a second, for breaching and breaking into Target's network is currently being used for many other companies. In fact, Verizon, in the Wall Street Journal, you can kind of see it, I ripped it out. Right next to it, Verizon is experiencing the same point-of-sale attacks. Point-of-sale is like at the cash register. They're dealing with that right now. And it looks to be precisely the same malware that's being used by very likely the same community of actors that are out there. So let's take a look. Okay, so this is what we did last week in my class. I said, I want you to go and learn about the target breach. And you have 1 hour to do it in class. Here's what I want you to find out. I want you to, everything there in this order. So find out the order of events with the incident. How was it detected? What are the costs? Who are these threat actors? Who do we think is behind it? And what would you do to prevent it from happening again? Ready, set, go. So they got together in their teams, and they had the internet, and it's amazing what you can learn in an hour. It really is. So let's take a look. What did they learn? Oh, and there's the assignment. Yeah, send it to me in an hour. Whoops. And then, okay, so this here is the result of their timeline or target order of events. So that was the first question, right? And you can read that there if you want. I hate, you know, I'll shut up in a second, but you only have one audio channel into your brain, right? Reading is actually an audio channel. So you can't read and listen at the same time. It doesn't work. So I'll be quiet and let you read for a second. Okay, since most of you are looking at that and saying, what is he talking about? What is this? Let's go through it. So these attackers that appear to be, and we'll look at the target profile or the attacker profile in just a second. They found an entry point through a small company, Phasio Mechanical, right in Pittsburgh, Sharpsburg, PA, across the river, and they have, Target has these portals, these partner portals, 3 of them. You can see right there. One of them is called Ariba. That's what Phasio Mechanical uses to externally bill Target for work provided. Partners Online, another portal that is used for project management, and there's another one. These are all open to the world. You can I don't know if you can still go to them right now because it's big time investigation. But the problem is when you authenticate, when you present your credentials, Target had set up to use the internal Active Directory, right? So, so instead of having this all completely isolated, it wasn't completely isolated. In fact, the PCI, anybody heard of PCI? Yeah, payment card industry. They set a group of standards. They're in version 3 of the standard right now that says these are the security standards if you want to do credit cards with Visa or Amex or Discover or whatever. And so you're supposed to have what's called 2-factor authentication, which is some combination of something you know, something that you have, maybe a key fob, a smart card, or whatever, and something that you are. Yeah, something you are, like some kind of biometric scanner, right? Like all of you who I'm very jealous because I bet some of you in the room have the latest version of the iPhone, and so you can just put your thumb on there and poof, you're authenticated to the iOS. I, unfortunately, am still on the iPhone 5. Yeah, so they broke into Phasio Mechanical. Phasio Mechanical was only using, they didn't have any antivirus on any of their systems. They were using the free version of Malwarebytes. Malwarebytes is great. And but the problem is, with Malwarebytes, is that it doesn't run in real time. It's like, you got the free version, you got to click on it. Go, check my system for malware. Go, check my system for malware. The paid version alerts you like antivirus, right? It's going to say, poof, we found this malware and we've quarantined it or whatever. Yeah? They were using the free version, which is, by the way, only available for non-commercial use. So those nasty little wrench benders at Phasio Mechanical. Yes, sir?
Missing from this itemized list is the possibility that the phishing attack is a lot wider than that.
Yeah.
It was a download of address books for interesting
Yeah.
correspondence.
Remember, these are students in an hour. But you're right. You're exactly right.
The implication is, if you widen it out a little bit, it's a lot more nightmarish.
Yes, exactly. So let's walk through this quicker. So how did they break in? How did they get into Phasio? Well, there's this nasty Trojan bad piece of malware that is meant to recover credentials remotely. Credentials are usernames and passwords. And it's called Citadel, and it's written in. You can pay for it. You can buy it. It's $1,800. No, it's about $3,000 now. But you have to speak Russian, because you can only download it from Russian websites, and you have to be able to be in the club now to be able to gain access to these places where you can buy that software, that malware. And allegedly, it was written by a 17-year-old teenager at the University of St. Petersburg. But that's, clearly, who knows, probably someone's imagination. So Citadel has been giving the banking industry absolute fits. There's a large bank about 3 blocks from here, large, huge, massive, you all know it, that has lost north of $3 billion in the last year due to fraud. Yeah, so that's with a B. Yeah, and Citadel was a part of that stuff. So this is a nasty, nasty piece of malware that is, and you can read about it. Just type Citadel Trojan, and there's this McAfee report, beautiful, tells you exactly what it does. Da, 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 da. It's in all the blogs and everything. You should learn about that stuff. Anyway, blah blah blah. They used the Citadel to gain access to credentials in the target systems. They were able to then gain access to further. Using another piece of malware to get administrative credentials on other parts of the target network. And once they had that, because it's an Active Directory structure, if you're a domain admin, carte blanche. Yeah, you have access to pretty much anywhere. And so as soon as they had that, they uploaded this other piece of vendorware malware that you can buy, also on the Russian black market. All of targets. Cash registers, which happen to be operating what? Windows XP embedded. Yeah, that's what every Target store in the United States is running Windows XP on those cash registers, the embedded version of that. Now, Target wasn't impacted in Canada because they use a completely different operating system to run their cash registers, called Retailix. But anyway, you can see here, so it scrapes the memory of these systems because they're all living, this credit card information is encrypted when it's on the hard drive. But when you're doing the transactions, it's plugged into memory, into Windows' memory. How are we doing on time? Getting pretty close, yeah, sorry. Anyway, to get down to the nitty gritty, they were able to collect from every single cash register for 2 weeks. Every card used across all Target systems at the peak of the shopping season, right? And they stuffed all of this into an internal Windows share, and then they used that to send it out to dropper location servers in the United States, in Brazil, and other places, and eventually they FTP'd it from those compromised servers into Russia. And that's where we know where it went. Beyond that, who knows, right? Yeah.
And detected by fraud control downloading some hot credit card numbers.
Yes.
It was not detected until fraud control proactively downloaded at one of the banks, downloaded a pile of cards and ran a source tabulation on them and noticed that all of them had been used to target.
Right.
That's exactly the way the Hartman version was detected.
Yes.
Yes, the point is that all this activity went on
Unknown to the network.
completely undetected, including the exfiltration of gigabytes of data.
Same thing happened to Hartman.
Yeah, so you can see here the black POS, an AV signature existed at the time for black POS, but you could see that they altered it somewhat. They renamed it, right? They changed it to their purposes, and when they did that, if you upload it and said one researcher got access to it, this specific version of malware used on these point-of-sale systems, uploaded to an online virus total, which runs a virus scan of 42 different commercial virus software engines, and none of them matched. There was no detection whatsoever. And so you get the point. These are students that are getting down to detection pieces. Some other notes. So the Secret Service monitors all the time credit card activity overseas, and they notice a big spike in the use of fraudulent credit card transactions, huge spike, and they notified Target. Also, the FBI got involved with the Department of Justice. JP Morgan Chase, big bank, issues credit cards. They saw these fraudulent charges, huge spike, and they called Target. And it goes on. In fact, right there, see that Windows share? That's the actual Windows share they used to dump all that data to. How did I know? Because I read it in Krebs Security. Because he got the report when that guy uploaded the malware to that online instant malware debugger, right? It spit it out. No brainer. Now the cost, this is scary. This is what this is about. It's huge. Right now, the estimate is about $450 million to $500 million, just like was said, well, eventually. And it could be more than that. But when you think about it, I had a slide here. I'm going back to it. Why not? It's going to take me a little while. Am I going backwards? No, I'm going forward. We'll wait it later. But I had a bullet on that digital battlefield slide, and it said, cheap weapons, massive damage. $1,800 for this Trojan that these guys paid for. $1,800. And $500 million of damage with $1,800 worth of software. And nobody knows where these people are. Let's see. Do you think we have a MLAT with Russia? Multinational Legal Assistance Treaty? Well, there's this guy named Edward Snowden. I'm not sure if you've heard of him. I don't know if we have an MLAT with Russia. So they're pretty much, if you live in Russia, you can do a lot of things with no fear of getting punished. And for a small fee, he did. And in which case, he also killed all the antivirus signatures because it was now changed and different. So they definitely had some ingenuity. And the amount of money is, well, I mentioned something about $3 billion in fraud in the last year, one large bank. Yeah, it's very costly. And they also saw some other thing. I think that last one's kind of funny, actually. You can find out a lot about things. Anyway, so the last part of this presentation is about what should you do. It all comes to, the bulk of this stuff comes down to dummy practices, things that you should be doing all the time. No kidding. People always think, well, this is just the most ridiculously esoteric attack. We could never have prevented this from happening, right? But for the most part, if you have normal security that was dictated by Target to Target based on the PCI, so the PCI, it's a certified vendor, and therefore they need to be able to comply with PCI standards. But they didn't, because they didn't have the PCI standards. If you have remote people accessing your systems, you have to have two-factor authentication. They just use username and password. Oh, and it connected to the Active Directory within the Target's corporate network. So they were a breach of that. And they're going to pay some wicked high fines, too. So the fun's only starting for Target. Yeah. And so you can see here, there's plenty of other things. Yeah, phishing was definitely a part of it. Phishing with a PH, which we all know now, right? Phishing is targeted, now largely targeted email that's designed to get you, to trick you into clicking on a link or opening an attachment or something like that. And they are becoming quite good at it. In fact, the Citadel Trojan, I think I'm about out of time. Okay. So that's it for Target. We could go on and on and on. If you're interested and you have a little time, I'm happy to stick around for a little while and just do a demo of some of that online system. But thanks for your attention. A lot of fun coming here. I appreciate it. I'd love to, yeah.
A couple of questions to wind up from the audience, please. Any questions for Chris?
Yes, sir. So are you talking about like insider threat? Well, the notion of insider threat?
If you try to do something about it, shouldn't you have like, a separated section where you know more than them?
Yeah, so that's the concept of segmentation. Networks should be segmented. Host systems that are critical to your mission should be segmented. And the division of labor, everything goes back to war games, everything, right? Remember the division labor? If you've seen war games, remember the very first scene, the two Air Force missileer dudes in the bottom? They couldn't launch a nuclear weapon because why? Because it takes two. It takes two to make a thing go right. Yeah, so they had to actually both turn the key and then press the button. But one guy refused, right? So that's why you have separation of duties. So that way, only, if you have an insider threat, one bad guy in target can't do everything. And if you have a domain admin privileges and everything's wide open, one domain admin credential allows you to do anything. Bad segmentation. Yeah, totally wrong. I don't know if I answer your question completely.
I guess you work for the government. I assume, I hope the government has some skills that, are not kind of out there. So like you have your own technology, if you will.
There are. Particularly on the more secure networks, without a doubt. Yeah.
Something like an embedded Windows XP system, like in these point-of-sale devices, are they updated regularly? Do they receive regular updates? Or is that a crazy?
So typically, these systems are not updated regularly. In fact, next month, they won't be updated at all. Why? Yeah, XP, as Microsoft said, we're done. So think of it. Right now, Target has millions of point-of-sale systems operating Windows XP. They're already probably way unpatched, but pretty soon they can't be patched whatsoever. Yeah, or unless they pay Microsoft a sizable fee, I think. Yes, sir.
Chris, let's be fair about that. There's a good chance that properly administered embedded XP, with the right ports turned off and locked down correctly, shouldn't have a large attack surface.
It's true.
The fact is, when you dig into, and this is why your comment about detailed pathology is important, when you find people running web browsers as admin on an embedded box.
Not too smart. That's the concept of what we call minimization, meaning that system is configured to only do the bare minimum of what it's required to do and nothing else. So classic example, you got the backup operator. There's always backup operators, or there used to be. Now it's mainly automated. But backup operators used to be some dude with a ponytail that came in at 7 at night and worked till 7 in the morning into the data center, and he just did backups. But it's pretty boring doing that for a long time. So he, who had admin privileges because of the backup operator role, is playing solitaire on your domain controller and surfing the web, and has, because they offer it and it's available, Outlook Express is on Windows domain controllers. Not anymore, but they used to be. And so they're using it as a normal user system. So minimization, everything's off of it, everything. It's configured to do nothing but what it's designed to do. Last thing, yep.
Yeah, the comment was a couple of years ago, I was at an InfraGuard-sponsored meeting about threats on Linux and Windows.
Yeah.
And after a 2.5-hour presentation about hacking, I stuck my hand up and said very quietly, in other words, don't run as a root.
Yeah.
And the speaker, after going through this whole 2-hour lecture, basically said, yeah, if you run as a guest user with no privileges on Windows,
Yeah. Right.
everything I've spoken for about the last 2 hours
Yeah.
goes away.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
You mentioned in your slide, in terms of ethics, if the other side is working under different ethics than let's presume our side, how do you deal with that? Because it seems that they're doing anything they want. Let's claim, and then we have to operate under another set of ethics.
Yeah, that's a kind of a philosophical question, I think, but you're right. How do you deal with it? What can you do? Other than, like it said in that slide, since you're abiding by the law, you're perpetually on the defensive. You're not allowed by law to go out and go after them. And your ethically probably wouldn't allow you to, your ethics and morals or whatever wouldn't allow you to do so anyway. So we are in a bit of a catch-22 currently. I don't know if there's a good answer to that question. Yeah, I think that the concept of the internet being regulated won't happen. That ship sailed long ago, and people like it the way it is. But it comes at a huge cost, right? Of having everyone be able to touch everything and everyone. It's dangerous. I'll leave you with this. I know I'm way over on time, so I'm sorry. So my team responded to a big building down in Wall Street a couple of years ago. And there's a large trading, well, hell with it, it was in the Wall Street Journal, NASDAQ. It was just before Christmas in 2011. And they found a huge compromise throughout NASDAQ's network. Now, if you read the Wall Street Journal, they were just in there looking around. Nothing was actually done. But think about that for a minute. Think about the possible implications. Let's just say confidence in the market is what makes the market work. So just the perception is important. And perception is so important that companies have to either certainly not tell the whole truth. With that, with the NASDAQ case, they were in there and doing legal trading. Think about that for a minute. NASDAQ has to, any merger and acquisition, any business thing needs to be, you need to notify the SEC 96 hours before it's announced publicly. Well, they had access to all this for 2 years. That information alone allowed them to make trades legally and make tons of money without technically stealing anything directly. So, thank you.